Hey everybody, it's GomletX and welcome back to some more Magic Arena. Today, the Magic Arena Cube is back on Arena and it will be on pretty much all month, all the way until September. For those who haven't played it before, the Magic Arena Cube is a curated list of the most powerful cards on Arena, so there are tons and tons of rares and mythics in this cube, as you can see in this pack. As such, it is a phantom draft format, meaning we don't keep any of the cards we draft in the format. We're just drafting for fun as well as for the prizes on the event prize tracker. So without further ado, let's take a peek at our first pack and see how we want to start our deck off. As always, there are tons of powerful options in tons of different colors, so you can go really whatever way you want. Kogla is one of the really good ones here in green. 6 mana for a 7/6 that's also going to fight an opposing creature, so it's immediately going to destroy something when it comes into play, and if it stays on board, it could even destroy some more artifacts and enchantments as it attacks. The returning a human ability is the most narrow part, but everything else in this card very powerful. Mind Flayer is another huge one, 5 mana for a 3/3, and you steal an opponent's creature as long as you can keep your Mind Flayer on the board. That can be a huge deal. Solemn Simulacrum is the most open card. This can fit into almost any deck unless you're very, very aggressive. This can fit into any 3-color deck for certain in this cube. Then we have Expressive Iteration just being a ridiculously powerful draw spell, but I think I want to just play some big green monsters today if we can. I'm going to start off with that Kogla I was looking at, that I was eyeballing pretty hard. Sweet card there. So for pack 1, pick 2, we have a bunch of great stuff. Yet again, we have the Gilded Goose. There's not a lot of phenomenal mana ramps, so Gilded Goose is pretty high up there. Being able to give you a food token and sacrifice that food token to add a mana of any color, ramp you up into a 6 mana play on only turn 5 or something like that. Topiary Stomper is a little interesting as well with Kogla, because this is going to work well for a ramp deck as well, pulling out a land from your deck, bringing it into play, and then once you have 7 or more lands, you can actually attack and block with this. For individually powerful cards in this pack, Chandra is a really, really great win condition against like more controlling decks. This card is just really, really hard to beat because it can't be countered, and it's going to put an emblem on them that's going to constantly deal damage to them. It's pretty great against more aggressive strategies too, dealing 3 to all null elementals with the -3, and having that X mana ability to just deal a specific creature. So Chandra is really powerful as well in a ramp deck. If we want to go ramp, Cultivate's going to be a really good pickup, but not something I think I'm going to pick to. I think I want to take the big Chandra and kind of stuff first, and then get all that ramp for her. I think I'm going to take the Chandra here. Of course, there's Angel of Invention in white is also huge. Murderous Rider is great in black. There's going to be a lot of cards in many of these packs that I'm not mentioning, not because they're not great, because I just don't have time. Everything in the pack is pretty sweet in cube, so we're potentially moving into like a red-green ramp deck, play some big 6 mana bombs here, some very unstoppable cards if we can make it to the high mana costs. When we look at pick 3 now, we have some really aggressive red cards that are quite good. Reckless Stormseeker, really good in an aggro deck, 3 mana for a 3/3 haste by itself, and later in the game it gives +2/+0 trample and haste, and it gives haste to each creature you play, not just itself, so it's actually even good in like a late game red-green deck, because all of a sudden Kogla's going to come in with haste, which is ridiculous. So I actually really like Reckless Stormseeker. There's also Royal Eruption for cheap interaction, which isn't something green-red's going to get a ton of. There's a decent amount in red, like Lightning Bolt and stuff like that in this cube. But this could be a pretty high pick, and for the same reason, Inscription of Abundance could be a pretty high pick. Just a green piece of cheap interaction, not something you're going to get very often, but I am a massive, massive fan of Reckless Stormseeker, and I think I'm going to take it here. It seems like it'll go really well in a red-green monsters deck. Now we have Stomping Ground for some mana fixing for us. We also have Settle the Wilds for some ramp, but this gets you a random basic land. You don't get to choose the type. That being said, you do get to draw a card from your deck when you play it as well, so it can be pretty high reward there. There's Spikefield Hazard, which is both a land and a burn spell, whichever one you need. Dragon's Guard Elite's a fine 2-drop. What is the Jukai Liberator? When it deals combat damage to a player, choose land or non-land, seek a permanent card of the chosen kind. 3 mana 3/3, every time it hits your opponent, draw a card. Very good if you can ninjutsu it. Actually, Liberator seems pretty cool, but I think I'm just going to go with Stomping Ground here. For off-color stuff, Blood Artist is incredible in any black deck that has a decent amount of creatures, and Approach the Second Sun is a really big win condition for a more controlling strategy, because it's just unstoppable. Even if you have counterspells, you can't stop this thing from going off the second time. I'm just going to take the Stomping Ground here, make sure our mana is really good, because we're going to have restrictive costs, like triple green on Kogla, double red on Chandra, that kind of stuff. All right, I'm a big fan of Anax Hardened in the Forge. 3 mana for a 2/3 all by itself, and whenever any non-token creature you control dies, you get a 1/1 satyr that can't block. If it's a creature with power 4 or greater, you get 2 of them, so Anax is pretty great, especially if we get pushed into a more mono-red aggro strategy. But I'd be pretty happy with an axe either way. Tamio's safekeeping is pretty good with cards like Kogla that you really want to protect. So this is really nice. It's a very cheap interaction as well, so safekeeping is actually pretty high up there, but I think an axe is a little higher for me. Off color, best card's probably Cavalier of Night, but that's very, very black. Triple black over there. And everything else is just kind of fine. Take an axe Hardened in the Forge there. We're at pick 6 now. Stonecoil Serpent is interesting because it fits into the curve wherever you need it. It gives you main deckable blockers for flyers, which is nice, especially in green-red. I like Stonecoil Serpent a decent bit, might play it here. There's also Ox of Aganos, which is a great way to refuel very late in the game when you have all the cards in your grave to escape it, or when you're out of cards in hand, you play this, discard your hand, draw 3. So Ox is interesting. I don't love Ox, though. I probably just don't have much experience with the card. Maybe it's better than I'm giving it credit for. Turntimber Symbiosis is fun because it's one of those cards that's really good because it's a land that when you're flooding out, it gives you a great just 7 mana play instead of just top decking another land. So Turntimber Symbiosis is actually pretty cool too. I'm actually going to go Symbiosis here. I do like that a lot, and that can be our 17th or 18th land. Use one of those modal lands. The double-faced lands, big fan of all of those. If we want to push to more just red aggro, we can take Bloodthirsty Adversary here. 2 mana 2/2 haste at worst, and at best, if you draw this later in the game when you're flooding a bit, gives you something really good to dump your mana into, being able to cast extra instants and sorceries from grave. So Adversary is pretty good. Kura is pretty good as well, but I think a little more replaceable in the mid-range kind of slot at like 5 mana in the deck. Kind of interested in taking this Haste Vampire, see if we get past enough red stuff that we get to start cutting red off and moving into a mono red strategy here. So I'm going to leave myself open to that by taking Adversary, and it's still playable for the green-red deck, whereas Kura is obviously only playable for the green-red deck, but a pretty impactful card if we are in that strategy. So we see Strangle here for cheap red removal spell, but it's not that great. In mono red, I would say, and Tempered in Solitude I'm not a big fan of, whereas Tovolar's Huntmaster is just another huge mega bomb if we go the green-red way, so not going to try to cut red enough to take Strangle over Huntmaster. I think Huntmaster's just ridiculous. Alright, Grim Lavamancer would be great in mono red, it would be fine in red-green, so we'll scoop that up. Hardened Scales is just a little too narrow for this deck. We don't have anything that makes +1/+1 counters right now, and not likely to get a ton of them. I guess we have the one Turntimber Symbiosis that maybe gets a +1/+1 counter. This is an easy Gilded Goose. Topiary Stomper is fun and all, but the cheaper your mana ramp is, the more impactful it is, and Gilded Goose being a 1 mana play that helps us get up on mana. It's very nice. We did wheel the Royal Eruption and the Light up the stage for mono red. The Inscription of Abundance for green red as well. Our path is kind of wide open here. We don't have any removal yet, so I'm pretty high up on Royal Eruption or Inscription of Abundance as the options. I like Inscription a little more in this deck. We're definitely going to have enough big creatures to do the fighting well, and if we have the 5 mana, this turns into a massive, massive impact. So yeah, I guess I'll just be green-red. It's all open to whatever we want to do, and Dragon's Guard Elite definitely goes up in quality when red's going to be this open, so we could actually get some instants and sorceries to use with this. Definitely better than Magmatic Channel in our deck, I would think. Because we're going to have enough high mana cost cards, we could exile something with Magmatic Channel or not have enough mana to pay for it. Very happy to wheel Tamio's Safekeeping here. That is going to be huge for this deck. Such a cheap way to protect a creature. We wheeled that Stonecoil Serpent that I was potentially taking earlier, so that's a great wheel. We even got a blue-red duel as the last pick, which is possible that we end up playing it, get a blue splash in the deck, so really happy with how things are looking here. Now we have an excellent pack 2. We have Elvish Mystic, another 1 mana ramp card. I really can't stress enough how powerful these cards are for a deck like this with a ton of powerful 6 mana plays. Just getting to those earlier is really good, so I'm probably taking Elvish Mystic here. We could take another powerful 6 mana play, the Ovenwald Hydra, but we already have 3 of those, and there's a lot of them in the cube when it comes to big, high-impact late-game plays. So I think I'm more concerned with making sure I get that cheap mana ramp style play now that I know I've got the big end game already. Even if I don't get a single another 6 or 7 mana card, I've got plenty of impact up at that mana cost. So I'm going to take Elvish Mystic here. We would love to wield to wheel the Ovenwald Hydra if we don't get it though. Lovestruck Beast is quite good in the middle of the deck here. A 3-mana 5/5, even if it can't attack, is such a huge blocker, and it gives you the 1/1 to be able to attack with it. Obviously the Dream Curve, that used to be a thing in I think Historic you'd see a bit, was like Elvish Mystic into Lovestruck Beast, which is pretty hilarious. Then you don't even have to use the Adventure, and you're just playing a 2-mana 5/5, well, a turn 2 5/5, not a 2-mana 5/5. So that's pretty big. Love me some Mana Ramp. Scoop up a Llanowar Visionary here. 3-mana Mana Ramp, which is less impactful than the 1-mana Mana Ramp that Elvish Mystic is, but in order to make up for that, this one draws you a card when you play it, which is huge. Just makes up for the card that it costs you. So Llanowar Visionary is incredible. Mephit's Enthusiasm is pretty good as well. We are going to want to pick up some removal, but with how open red and green we're looking, maybe we can wheel this, and I do think that as important as removal is, the good Mana Ramp cards like Llanowar Visionary just feel less replaceable to me, especially because we did not wheel Cultivate in pack 1, so we know at least one of the good Mana Ramp cards is gone. So I'm going to take the Llanowar Visionary here. Now we might take removal. Unholy Heat is nice and cheap. 1 mana instant speed, 2 to a creature planeswalker. If you have 4 or more card types in grave, you do 4 instead. Goblin Chainwhirler is just too hard for us to cast, being triple red. Surfarin, pretty similar, being double green. A little bit difficult to cast that. And Tangled Florahedron is actually one of the weaker Mana Ramp cards, a 2-mana card that taps for a green. It's just a 1/1, just a 2-mana version of Elvish Mystic, although this does fill a similar role to Symbiosis. I feel like it just works worse though, because it's the kind of card that, like, it's always mana. Even if you top deck this late game, you just still play it as a 2-mana 1/1, which is just mana for the most part. So I much prefer the flip lands that are like a land or a really expensive, nice kind of spell for when you're flooding out. So I'm just going to take Unholy Heat here. Get a little removal spell in the deck. Here's another one, Ravenous Pursuit. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to a creature you don't control, and then you choose a creature in your hand, give it +X/+X, where X is the amount of excess damage dealt this way, so pretty great removal spell there. We also have Kumano Faces Kakazan, really good if we're getting super aggro, so great for like mono red, but I don't think we're getting that aggro. I think we want more removal spells, especially more instants and sorceries for Dragon's Guard Elite to go up in quality. Wolfwillow Haven's pretty solid as well, but it's kind of similar to Elvish Mystic, or not Elvish Mystic, but the Tangled Florahedron, where it's 2 mana to just get an additional green, so it's like a 2-mana version of Elvish Mystic or Gilded Goose. Not super duper high on it, but it gives you something to do if you don't need the mana anymore. You get a 2/2 out of it at least. But yeah, I think I prefer Ravenous Pursuit anyway. Ooh, that's an incredible saga and probably going to be the pick. We're definitely not a Seize the Storm deck. Our instant sorcery count isn't high enough. It's between Jugan Defends the Temple, 3 mana to get a 1/1 that taps for green, then a counter on 2 of your creatures, and then a 2/2 flyer that lets you dump extra mana into getting more +1/+1 counters on your creatures. So a lot of impact for only 3 mana. It just takes a while to get it all off. Versus Rishkar Pima Renegade, which is quite a bit of impact for 3 mana, and it gives you it immediately. So 3 mana for a 2/2, and you put a counter on 2 of your creatures, so 3 mana for a 3/3 essentially, and now all of your creatures can tap for green, all the ones that have a counter on it. So these are similar in that they both are putting some counters on the board. They're both getting a mana dork out, but I think I prefer the nice Remnant of the Rising Star, being able to get that dragon in the late game than just the higher immediate impact that Rishkar gives us. So either of those picks would have been phenomenal for us. And another great pack, we have Professional Facebreaker, which can let us draw a lot of cards, get those treasure tokens to ramp up into our plays, and then when we don't need the treasure for mana anymore, we just start using them to draw cards, which is huge. There's also a Braid here for cheap interaction. This is really good too because it can destroy a small creature or an artifact. Main deckable artifact removal is nice. And there's Reclamation Sage, which, as I just said, main deckable artifact and enchantment removal is pretty nice. So Rec Sage, a Braid, and Professional Facebreaker all looking pretty spicy here. Thanks to taking that Pursuit and having an Inscription of Abundance already, I'm pretty high on Professional Facebreaker here. Just like the idea of this, getting us treasure in the early game to ramp into our big plays, and then the late game using the treasures to get more plays, so I love that. Pelt Collector's pretty nice in a monsters deck. It's going to keep getting bigger throughout the game. There's also Primal Command, which is pretty high impact. A lot of nice options on here. For 5 mana, Elvish Visionary is fine. We don't have a lot of 2-drops, so that could fit in well. Pyromancer would be okay, but we don't have a super high sorcery and instant count, so it wouldn't be great. There's also Treasure Map for early game. I think I just want a Pelt Collector. Nice 1 mana dork that's just going to keep getting bigger throughout the game. Love me an Augur of Autumn. This is a huge card draw engine. no matter what, you can play lands off the top of your library to help you pull those lands out of the way and draw the next card instead. And then if you have Coven, then you can play lands and creatures off the top, and you can really draw a lot of cards. There is an Inferno of the Star Mounts, which is a really nice late game play. I guess I am pretty cluttered up at 3 mana right now, but probably taking out like a Nax and stuff for Augur of Autumn, so still going to stick with Augur of Autumn. I think it's just a great card draw engine. Synthesizer, fine card draw engine. I wouldn't really play it in this red-green deck here, because you really have to cast the spells the turn you exile them. I'm just going to take Castle Embereth here. We're not going to play a colorless land in this deck with all of our double green, triple green, double red mana costs. We did wheel Mephit's Enthusiasm, so beautiful. Glad I didn't take that other removal spell super highly. We did wheel the Tangled Florahedron. We could take Surferin now. We actually are getting a really heavy focus on green over red, so I'm actually probably going to take Surferin over Tangled Florahedron. Crafter's Bestiary is a fine card draw engine as well, but it's a bit slow. You have to start playing off curve to get your value out of it. You have to play a 3 mana creature on turn 4, a 4 mana creature on turn 5 to get your card draws. But it is good. I think Augur can fill that role just better, though. I'm just going to take some nonsense I don't want to play against, I guess. There's nothing we're playing there. Nothing we're playing here either. But Seize the Storm, I guess, is most likely. Even though it's not super likely. Definitely not playing Root Wall, but we're certainly not playing Mizzix's Mastery. I don't know. Maybe supposed to take Root Walla there. Okay, what do we open up in pack 3? Another main deckable artifact enchantment removal spell. I like that. Helps get our green count higher as well. It does look like we're getting a pretty hefty focus on that color. There's also Sweltering Suns, which is really nice in a slower ramp deck. In case you're against one of the aggro decks, then you just shoot everything on your opponent's board for 3. That can be really good there. It's got the cycling. If you're not, you just cycle it away and get something else. Harker's Journal just seems really slow. I think it's Vandal, Sweltering Suns. Maybe even Twin Shot Sniper is just a nice value play. Should hopefully wheel one of these red cards and we can just decide on that later. I'm just going to take a Masked Vandal. 2 mana, 1/3. If you exile a creature from your grave when you cast it, you exile an artifact or enchantment as well. Alright, now we've got Migration Path, which pulls out 2 basics, so it ramps you up a lot, or it cycles if you're flooding out and you don't need it. There's Glorious Sunrise, which is a pretty big deal. Gives your whole board +1/+1 trample till end of turn, or gives you 3 additional mana this turn, or I guess that's 2 additional mana. Or you draw an extra card, or you gain 3 life, and you do that every single turn, so this is really a snowball-y kind of effect. The longer you have it out, the more likely you are to win the game. Actually a pretty big fan of Sunrise. I'll take that here. Phoenix of Ash. We could have had a pretty sweet mono red deck, but it looks like we are definitely leaning in more on the green. Take the cards like Glorious Sunrise over the Phoenix of Ash. Ooh, Helena and Elena partners is absurd. Really hard to beat this card because it makes your stuff so big so fast, but the Great Henge is also super hard to beat because it's going to gain life and draw cards so quickly and give you that extra mana. Do need to have a big creature on board to get that nice cost reduction on it to get this onto the board, but it's so big from that point on. Great Henge is huge. Helena and Elena's incredible. Crag Crown Pathway would be great. Lightning Bolt's great, but it's got to be Great Henge or Helena and Elena. It's a pretty hard choice between the two. I actually don't have a lot of super high power creatures early to help get the Great Henge out, so it feels like another really late game play. I think I'm going to take Helena and Elena here over Great Henge, unfortunately. It just wins games so quickly at 4 mana. Ridiculous card. Wow, Fable of the Mirror Breaker, one of the best red cards on Arena, period. Get a 2/2 that spits out treasure tokens, then discard 2, draw 2, then get a 2/2 that copies your other creatures. There's Titan of Industry for another huge late game play. There's Tenacious Pup for another aggressive early game play. Glorybringer's huge as well. Removal spell and a creature all in one. This is so good. We have so many great 3-drops. I'm tempted to go for like Glorybringer here, and maybe we're not even rampy anymore. We're just straight green-red beats, just green-red aggro. Just all these really nice aggressive mid-game plays that are just absolutely brutal. I'm going to take Glorybringer over Fable of the Mirror Breaker or Titan of Industry, but those are both so good. I cannot overstate how powerful those cards are. That was just an incredible pack. Now we have Toski, Bearer of Secrets, letting us draw a card anytime we get some combat damage in on our opponent, or we have Riveteer's Requisitioner, 2-mana 3/1 that gives us a treasure when it dies. Nice for an aggressive deck like this that is aggressive and has big late game plays. There's Sokenzen. Give us a land that we can channel if we're flooded out. I think I like Toski. We've got a nice creature count, 18. Yeah, we're going to have a ton here. Let's get a Toski in here. Get that card draw off of it. Fight Rigging's pretty cool. Pretty cool card that would work pretty well in the deck. It's a little bit slow, just a tiny bit slow, but I think it's probably a little better than Play with Fire or Siege Gang Commander, which are the next interesting cards. Chandra's okay in here as well. We have some instants and sorceries to try to recast with her, but I don't know, maybe I've been playing too much Capenna lately, but Fight Rigging is just a really fun card that I think is pretty dang powerful. This Cultivator's pretty good, isn't it? 4 mana for a 2/3, and you search your library for land, put it on the battlefield tapped when you play it? That's not bad at all, and if you have no lands in hand, it only costs 2 mana, which is insane. Yeah, that's pretty great. There's a burn spell in here as well, and that's about it otherwise. So Forceful Cultivator feels pretty good here. Ooh, Ulvenwald Oddity is nuts. Nuts card here. I've played this a little bit in Standard, and this thing is just sick. Just 4 mana, 4/4 trample haste, and if you get the mana to flip it, all of a sudden an 8/8 trample haste gives your whole field +1/+1. This is such a huge game ender, and it comes out so quickly too. We're taking it over more removal, but hopefully our 3 or 4 removal spells is enough for us. We've got 4 of them. We'll just play like 4 removal spells and a mountain of creatures. It's kind of just how green-red is. This is going to be an exciting deck. This is just a really fun, just green-red beat sticks. We're just going to play dudes and attack, and hopefully they're just too big for our opponent to deal with, at least quickly enough. Yeah, this deck is loaded. This is a fun one. I'm not going to play a Faithless Looting in here. You don't really want to play Faithless Looting if your deck has no graveyard synergies. You really need to be getting some value out of whatever you put in the grave, because otherwise you're down a card. You've spent a card to draw 2 and discard 2. So it's like, in terms of card advantage, it's worse than just a card that says draw 1 card. Because drawing 1 card, you'll end up with the same number of cards in hand. If you play Faithless Looting, you're actually down a card, because you put Faithless Looting in grave and draw 2, discard 2, which that doesn't affect your number of cards in hand. Probably not playing Phoenix of Ash, but I guess it's possible. We get that aggressive. It's an easy Crag Crown pathway here, although Zayator's Proving Ground is actually interesting, because it could be the red or the green, so we can decide later on. But it is a tapped land, and I've got a nice amount of 1s and 2s and 3s. I think I want the untapped land. That's actually interesting, that and the tapped land there. All right, Tenacious Pup is beautiful. We've got a heavier focus on green than red, so I'm going to take the good green 1-drop over the good red 1-drop. And that's kind of why I'm thinking of cutting Phoenix. I might cut like Phoenix and an Axe, keep the red as pretty splashy for Helena, Lena, Glorybringer, Chandra. Just that kind of stuff. All right, let's build this deck. Look at the sheer quantity of playables here. We get to cut 12 cards out of this deck. Probably focusing on just cutting down a lot of the red here. 25 creatures and 10 non-creatures. We can cut a lot of creatures out of this deck. Don't love Grim Lavamancer here. Don't think I'm flooding my graveyard that quickly. I have a few instants and sorceries, but all my creatures I prefer not to trade off with them that much, because they're all pretty beefy. So probably not a Grim Lavamancer deck. Probably not a Rabbit Battery deck. The Reckless Stormseeker fills a similar role and just does it a lot more efficiently. We don't have to spend mana to give things haste with Stormseeker. It just does it naturally. So I don't love Rabbit Battery. And that way I also get to have all of my 1-mana spells just be green spells, so we don't have to worry about having a red source turn 1. Helps us lower that red count. Cutting on the red means that an Axe is going to get a lot weaker with a much lower devotion, and double red is kind of hard to get on turn 3, so I think I'm going to cut an Axe and Phoenix of Ash here. Again, lowering that red to pretty splashy just for the cream of the crop, or the easily castable, like just a single red source. So Professional Facebreaker, Reckless Stormseeker, easily castable, pretty powerful cards. Glorybringer is a little more difficult to cast, but it is powerful enough that that's fine, and it's on turn 5, so we can... we don't need like 2 red sources out of 3 like we would for a 3-mana spell. We need 2 red sources out of 5. It's much more reasonable. So definitely going to keep Glorybringer, certainly keeping Helena, Stormseeker. Maybe Facebreaker could get cut, Adversary and Requisitioner could get cut as well. I do have Elvish Mystic and Gilded Goose to hop up from 1 mana to 3 mana. So on turn 2, instead of playing a 2-drop, I can play one of our many 3s. So we can lower the 2-drop slot, cut those 2 out. This is 46 cards now. Still 19 creatures, still a very high creature count, but I could justify that with just, I am the green-red monsters deck. We're just going to have a ton of creatures and really emphasize the power of like Glorious Sunrise and stuff, buffing the whole board. This is a land, this Turn Timber Symbiosis, so this can be our 17th or our 18th land. We might want 18 lands in this deck. Although we have some mana dorks and our curve stops at 6, which isn't horrible. I could see still playing 16 lands plus 1 Symbiosis. So we could maybe cut the land there like I just did. Then we have... Stonecoil Serpent might be a little iffy. I just love that it fits anywhere on the curve, but never going to be massively good. And our really high creature count helps with Toski as well. And Professional Facebreaker helps make sure those are getting treasures or card draw. Yeah, pretty okay with that. We could take some of our cheaper removal out, especially since it's red, and then we focus on the removal that can kill pretty much anything, because we can just use our big creatures to do it. Inscription of Abundance and Ravenous Pursuit. Pretty low on removal that way, but I think I'm okay with that. Still need to cut 2 more cards after this, though. I might not end up playing this Fight Rigging, because I just feel like I have so much stuff to do turn 3, turn 4. I'm almost never going to do Fight Rigging that early in the game. So it feels like it turns into a late game play where Glorious Sunrise is just much higher impact, or Chandra, like just better late game non-creature spells, so we could cut Fight Rigging as well. How many lands is in here? 16, right? Yeah, this is 16 lands. I'd still need to cut 1 more card after these 4. Probably cut 1 more creature. Do like these non-creatures all a whole lot. If we're super lucky, Cultivator comes out turn 2. Actually, Turn Timber Symbiosis makes Forceful Cultivator even better, because it makes it easier to pretend we don't have a land in hand. Like, if we have Turn Timber Symbiosis in hand, and I don't know, like, if our opener is 2 forests, Turn Timber Symbiosis, then we could still turn 2 a Cultivator, and we still have a land play the turn after that, because Turn Timber Symbiosis has the Turn Timber Serpentine Wood on the back. So that's pretty cool. I really like Stormseeker in here. But I guess a lot of our bigger cards do already have haste. Lena's giving haste to things. Ulvenwald Oddity already has haste. Glorybringer already has haste. Maybe it's Stormseeker over Facebreaker? I feel like it's probably one of those two as the final cut. It could be Masked Vandal as well, but I do like Maydeckable Artifact and Shaman removal. I guess I still have that with Kogla here. Pretty impactful. Could do these 5 cards: Masked Vandal, Stonecoil, Unholy Heat, Mephit's Enthusiasm, Fight Rigging. She still seems pretty good. Probably don't need as many 1-drops because we have such good 5s and 6s and stuff, so we could even cut a 1-drop for one of these later game plays. But I do like all of our 1-drops, especially Elvish Mystic, Gilded Goose, but Tenacious Pup, Pelt Collector also feel pretty strong in this deck. Giving something +1/+1 trample vigilance, just pretty big deal. Yeah, I think I'm gonna cut these 5 and call it a deck. Alright, so here we have a look at the final deck we're going to be playing today. Very heavy focus on green here, but mostly a green-red monsters deck. Just a bunch of absolute beat sticks in green and red. Lots of good, cheap mana ramp. We have Elvish Mystic and Gilded Goose on turn 1, letting us get to a turn 2 3-drop, something like Augur of Autumn, Reckless Stormseeker, Professional Facebreaker being all pretty great. We go to our big late game win conditions. We have Kogla, the Titan Ape, Tovalar's Huntmaster, Chandra Awakened Inferno, with a pretty high creature count. Glorious Sunrise is a huge win condition. Glorybringer is great, a removal spell on a creature all on one, just a great mid-range play. Helena and Elena absolutely takes over the game, wins pretty quickly. Ovenwald Oddities, big and scary enough to win the game pretty quickly. Lots of big beat sticks when we get to 4 mana and above to close out the game. A little bit of solid removal, Inscription of Abundance and Ravenous Pursuit. Some nice interaction with Tameo Safekeeping to keep one of our win conditions on the board through a Wrath effect or a removal spell or something like that. And yeah, that's the idea. We're just going to play some big, beefy green and red creatures, try to curve them out pretty efficiently, and just beat some faces here. So without further ado, let's head into game 1. All right, here we are in round 1. Opponents on the play. Didn't get any of our 1-drops, unfortunately, here, but this hand is more than good enough to keep. We just got to hope they're not super aggro and can really punish us for being on the draw this game. Well, this has become a massive problem. I will discard a green source here. Definitely discarding a land, because we've got a Llanowar Visionary coming up later. Professional Facebreaker as well, maybe getting treasures. But yeah, this is a huge deal. Because of Kroxa there, they got to do enough damage, have us lose 4 life that turn to have this Knight of the Ebon Legion get bigger. We still have not drawn a 1 or 2 drop. Yeah, we're just getting beaten down hard. Stuck on 2 mana here, though. That's very helpful for us. I would like to Glorybringer next turn, so I am going to play a Llanowar Visionary. Hope they can't burn this away. Even on 2 mana, they could have plenty ways to kill a Llanowar Visionary, though. If they don't kill this, we get to go Mountain into Glorybringer next turn, kill their 1 creature on board. We did get their 3rd mana, and Searing Blood is a very good removal spell here. That's brutal. It's so painful, too. 2 damage to the creature and 3 damage to our face, which means Knight of Ebon Legion gets another counter on it. So we have to wait another turn for Glorybringer. This cannot buff itself, right? Yeah, Helena and Elena cannot buff themselves. So we Pelt Collector into Professional Facebreaker here, so we have 2 creatures on board. Ravenous Pursuit is not going to do enough damage to kill anything. So yeah, Pelt Collector into Facebreaker. Or Pelt Collector into Augur of Autumn. So even if we don't draw land next turn, if we have one on top, we still get there. To the Glorybringer. Sure. I think it's more likely that we have a land 2 cards from the top than that we actually decide to attack our opponent to get a treasure. Because if I attack my opponent and get a treasure, I'm casting the Glorybringer post-combat, which doesn't help me kill the Knight of Ebon Legion anyway, so... Do not think that the Facebreaker actually looks better than Augur here. They have the 3 mana to buff this up if I double block. Probably chumping with Pelt Collector. Hoping for a land on top here. Because they're also threatening to buff it if I don't block. They're threatening to deal 6 damage to me, put me to 3. That leaves me dead to land Lightning Bolt, or just pass the turn and then Lightning Bolt us next turn. So I don't think I can afford to take any more damage here. I definitely can't afford to let this through. This card is really good. This was just added to Arena. What just happened? What's going on? They must have misclicked because they did this and nothing happened. Doesn't look like it's going to matter too much here though, because we're still stuck from the 5th mana. It's not on top here. an Inscription, but I can't kick it because that needs 5 mana as well. I guess I could put 2 counters on Augur and shoot the 3/4, and then I have the blocker for Requisitioner. That's probably the best I've got here. Make my Glorybringer absolutely ridiculous, but I think it's probably safer to just make sure I can make a really big blocker next turn. Oh, I'm not dealing any excess damage. Okay, it doesn't matter. It does not matter what I choose. It's not getting any bigger. Alright, they're going to burn spell this Augur here, but I cannot afford the damage still. Feel like. So here comes the post-combat 2 damage to a creature. Play with fire or something. Twin shot sniper, that's very good there. It's pretty disgusting. Alright, play a 2/3 blocker for their 2/3 attacker. They need a burn spell to kill this. They have 5 cards in grave. And 6 for their strike. No, they got the double black for their Sorin.
I bring order to this broken world.
That's an issue.
You fight for me.
No, it's not. Glorybringer can kill Sorin or their twin shot sniper here. They bring back Kroxa. Kroxa doesn't have haste when it escapes, right? Exile 5 other cards. They're going to have 5 in grave if they block with twin shot or if Sorin dies. Yeah, it's just going to be a 6/6. It's not going to have haste. Okay. So yeah, we Glorybringer and we exert here. Attacking Sorin. Shooting the lifelink. Now Sorin dies or twin shot sniper dies. So Sorin dies. Now they're going to get Kroxa back.
Never be restored.
Have us discard a card. Happens every time it attacks too. Kroxa probably kills us. Feel like Glorious Sunrise gaining life is huge, but the extra counters from Helena and Elena can get us to a point where we could actually block Kroxa well in the future. This is pretty rough. I'm going to keep Helena and Elena. Another land for us. I think we're just getting Kroxa to death. If I kept Glorious Sunrise here, then I also still just die. I just play Glorious Sunrise and be at 12, I guess. Make Glorybringer big enough to block Kroxa in the future. Because Facebreaker's just going to chump there, and Helena will block there. So we'll just make sure, even if they top deck removal for Helena, we have a creature big enough to block Kroxa. This card is nuts. Oh my god. GG. Meathook Massacre off the top. We'll seal it. I guess not completely. Safekeeping's a big draw. But Meathook Massacre is really not what we wanted to see there. And into Massacre Worm? You're just gonna hit Meathook into Massacre Worm? That is so absurdly rude. Seems good. still at 1 here. But those are really not the draws we wanted to see at all. Give +1, but that's still not 6 power. Yeah, no. Opponent was on the play with the aggro deck and had some really good draws these last couple turns. Brutal. Thought we had a small chance of recovering, but it's too much. Croxa is a pretty nuts Magic card. Here we are now, game 2. It's a mono green hand, but I'm pretty fine with that. Still none of our 1 or 2 drops. Would really like to draw those in the early turns. I'm just going to send that energy out into Arena and hope that it gives us some of them, but other than that, pretty good. We have 9 cards that cost 2 or less. Shadow Spear, turn 1 from our opponent. That can give their creatures +1/+1, trample, and lifelink. Pretty big equipment here. Jadar is the play. That's a really nice play for turn 2. If you count my 3 drops, I have 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 14 cards that cost 3 or less. This is really unfortunate. I feel like I'm getting unfairly punished for my curve. I actually do have 1s, 2s, and 3s, but not these last couple games. Well, maybe on the plus side, if you don't have 1s, 2s, or 3s, Inquisition of Kozilek does nothing. So there's that. Ready for the saddest Helena and Elena? Helena and Elena on an empty board. Let's go. If they don't have instant speed removal, our next turn is going to be insane. So that is sorcery speed removal, so Helena and Elena are gone. But Glorybringer and blow up their Jadar. Jugan defends the temple is the draw. Definitely still Glorybringer. Blow up this Jadar. Our opponent will draw a card from their clue. Put them down to 20. Got Kogla next turn if they just tap out for some big creature. Fight it off. Eldest Reborn, very nice against 1 creature. That's really, really bad for us. We have to discard a card next turn, and then they're going to bring a Glorybringer from our grave to their board off of the 3rd part of this saga. Ooh, Tovolar's Huntmaster. I want to do that so badly, but I feel like I have to play Kogla so that if they don't have any more removal left, Kogla gets to blow up the Eldest Reborn and we don't have to worry about a creature coming back from their grave. That feels like our only shot, because if I just Huntmaster here, I feel like Huntmaster doesn't kill them fast enough to outrace them getting a Glorybringer from our grave, especially when they have Shadow Spear. But I guess Kogla's not killing a creature when we play it. We could Kogla and kill the Glorybringer later. I really am not sure here. I'm going to play the Huntmaster, I guess. History of Manalia. Gutter Bones. Alright, maybe they didn't have removal and Kogla would have got us there because it had blown up Eldest Reborn. They had 3 cards in hand in the black-white deck. Those are the most removal-heavy colors in the whole cube. I don't know. So they're going to get back creature or planeswalker. They're going to get back the Glorybringer. Or Helena and Elena's bad too, but we can blow up either with Kogla. So, Pelt Collector, Glorious Sunrise, and gain some life? No, because they're only hitting us with one creature. They're only hitting us with Glorybringer. We can block on the ground all day. So I think I draw the card. And pass turn here. They are going to get the Glorybringer. One card left in hand, Ranger of Eos. Yeah, Kogla to just blow up Eldritch Reborn would have been our best line. But I didn't know what the 3 cards in hand were. We get a Dread Wanderer from the Ranger. It's going to hit us down to 5 life and gain 5. Actually gain a boatload, because if they exert this Glorybringer, which they know we have Kogla in hand, so they have no reason not to, they're also going to kill a wolf here and gain 4 more life. This is a game we need to take it over by just playing bigger stuff than they have. It's not a game that we're going to be able to outrace them. Kill the Pelt Collector, fair enough. Alright, we've got Kogla. And we can hold up Tamiyo Safekeeping as well. Because I can hold up Safekeeping, I can block all 5 of their... I can block 4 of their 5 creatures. I'm going to gain 2, I'll be at 7. I think I'm drawing the card again. The Knights are big, but everything else can get blocked by a 2/2. Have something big enough for Bonders? Oh yeah, because the Knights are 4/3 this turn, so they do get to use Bonder's Enclave this turn. But after this turn, they won't. Never mind. If they didn't top deck Gideon, then they wouldn't have had anything big enough to draw more cards off of next turn. Gideon's insane here too, because they give whatever ability they need for combat. Vigilance, Lifelink are indestructible.
Share in my light.
Gideon is not ideal. So Lifelink it's going to be. That's fine, I can still block that with a 6/6 or a 7/6. Okay. So we're going to go block there and we win the fight. Block there, we win the fight. Block there, we kill that. Which one of these can they not cast? They're both too expensive to use right now. Dreadwander's going to be easier for them to get back from grave. Gutterbones, they're going to have to hit me again in a future turn. With Dreadwander, they're always going to have a small hand, so they can just untap, draw, and use Dreadwander immediately. So I think I block and kill Gutterbones over killing the Dreadwander. And we're going to save a Ranger of Eos. I mean, we're going to save a Wolf here. And then we're going to kill Gideon on attacks. And then we've dealt with almost their whole board. We've dealt with everything but Dreadwanderer and their Shadow Spear next turn. We still have our massive creatures. Yeah, this is great. No, we blow up Shadow Spear with Kogla. We've dealt with literally everything but Dreadwanderer. Oh my god, the flavor text on Shadow Spear kills my wolf anyway. I did not realize that. There was no point in playing the Tamiyo Safekeeping. I should not have done that. Just gonna draw cards still. Okay, we're gonna kill Gideon and blow up Shadow Spear. I think we're gonna play it safe against this Dread Wanderer. So they can't top deck removal and hit me for 2.
Not again.
Actually, if I hit them, I would have gotten my treasure and tried to draw a card off the top. All right, they just got to land. And now they can't play this Gutterbones because they can't hit me through these creatures. And it's nighttime now, so the pack leader can, if we get more wolves, start fighting things off. Which we can get more wolves. Draw another card. It's Castle Embereth. Now we get wolves just by attacking, so we know we have more blockers. Actually, could have just attacked everybody because I get 2 wolves, which is insane. Get our treasure token. Draw another card off of Facebreaker. Forceful Cultivator, sure. Pull another land out of the deck. Here's a Tenacious Pup. And that should be it. We should have turned the corner here. Stabilized, and now we're in the winning position by a lot. Murderous Rider on Kogla. We've got humans to give Indestructible. The flavor text on Kogla helping us out, like the flavor text on Shadow Spear. Kind of messed us up earlier. Alright, Castle Embereth is pretty big. Play this Facebreaker pre-combat. I don't get more 2/2s this time. Let's not attack any 2/2s or 1/2s into that. We'll just hold them up as blockers. Well, we could trample here if we want. Don't think we're quite lethal yet, so I'm still going to draw the card. But yeah, +1/+1 trample to the whole board probably finds lethal next turn. Dragon's Guard Elite. So I can play that. Probably better to just recast Huntmaster, but I'm gonna do it anyway. Get greedy here. Not miss any value. Yeah, that's another thing we could do. Huntmaster, if it's not nighttime, I can return Huntmaster to Kogla just to recast it and get 2 more wolves when it enters the battlefield. But don't have the mana to do that if I drop that Dragon's Guard Elite down. Okay, they're at 25. We have 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Oh my god. Just gonna kill everything, so we're gonna return Huntmaster. The auto tapper messed me up. I should have been able to turn all 3, but it tapped double green on the first trigger. Should have been able to turn Dragon's Guard Elite as well there. But the auto tapper is a rude one at times. Wow, I can afford to play that and Chandra here. Sure.
Ever see a volcano erupt in person? Let's get toasty.
Pretty close to wanting to just start gaining life. Overruled Oddity, that's a thing. Exile their 1 creature here. Do I have enough mana to flip this? Probably. Sure do. I'm gonna exile that and gain life, and then I just feel like I'm super safe for whatever happens. Alright, they're just gonna scoop them up. 16, 17, 18, 20, 21, 22. Actually, I could have got lethal if I +1/+1 that turn. I wanted to save the Gilded Goose for post-combat just in case of something wildly strange, but I don't know. We turned the corner there, got into an absolutely massive lead. So lucky for us, doesn't really matter what we did from that point on. So 1-1 now as we head into game 3. All right, opponent is on the play here. We've drawn our Elvish Mystic. Elvish Mystic into Llanowar Visionary. Be the absolute ramp master over here. We can pretend we're on the play. Ooh. The Pelt Collector in there too. Throw that in the middle somewhere. Turn 3 Pelt Collector Ovenwald Oddity, I guess. We're against blue-white, so hopefully we can just slam a bunch of creatures out before they have the mana for all their counters and removal. Turn 2 Clarion Spirit, though. Makes it look like a much more aggressive kind of blue-white deck than what I was imagining. Facebreaker might be better than Visionary here, because we can cast Ovenwald at Oddity next turn, even with just 1 mana dork. And Facebreaker maybe gets us started on those treasure tokens with Ovenwald Oddity slamming our opponent's face. Chandra is definitely absurd in the blue-white matchup, though. If they do have some counterspells that they were hoping to use. Just put those emblems on our opponent, get us the inevitability late game. We're just going to flash in Nimble Obstructionist in the main phase. Obstructionist is just going to say, hey, what's up? And I'm just going to say, hey, right back with Ovenwald Oddity. If they want to trade both their creatures into that, that is fine. They still take a damage if they do that, so I still get a treasure. And I think at this point in the game, moderately worried about them wrathing me, but if they wrath, I still just Chandra afterwards. I think I'm just going to get greedy here and try to really push the early advantage. Dump more stuff onto the board. It's like the clip of Ego Raptor chewing on the chips and M&Ms with the mouth opening thing. There's more! Alright, 4 cards in hand here. 1 white, 3 blue up. They have played land for turn. That's why their 1 island is kind of moved to the side. Opponent's going to have to do some relatively big plays to stabilize here. Just a 4 mana 4/4 trample haste is just such an efficient beat stick. So you're going to play a Seagate Stormclaw, which will double their next spell that costs 2 or less. This is a 2 mana removal spell that can be really bad for me. This is like 2 mana return a creature to its owner's hand. It's also really bad for me. Either way, Clarion Spirit's going to spit out a 1/1 flyer here. Okay, it's going to be Venerated Loxodon. That is still very good, but at least they didn't get the Seagate Stormcaller value, but they sure did make their whole board quite big. If I connect with a single creature here, I can cast a Chandra, because I get a treasure token. However, I don't want to attack with Facebreaker into these two. But if I attack with Facebreaker Oddity, no matter what, I can connect, but then I'll have to play Safekeeping no matter what. Or most likely, which means Chandra doesn't. I think I just attack with Oddity. If they want to take the trade, we're going to cast Safekeeping this turn. If they don't want to take the trade, we're just going to get a Chandra down. I'm going to plop a Chandra onto the board. I really want to -3/-3 everybody with this Chandra. Or deal 3 damage to everybody with Chandra, but then I only have Oddity left, so I just make the board just Oddity versus Loxodon. That feels bad. Maybe I don't Chandra? If I just Chandra and +2, I guess she's at 8 loyalty, and I'm doing damage to my opponent. I really like the Chandra backup plan of 3 to everybody. Maybe I am holding Chandra for later and just playing Visionary for now, buffing Pelt Collector. Drawing a card, holding up a Safekeeping here. Yeah, we can Chandra next turn, I guess. Talked myself in and out of casting Chandra that turn. Oh, you know what I can do next turn? I can go land and just flip the Oddity, give my whole field +1/+1 trample haste. Three Flying Prowess, Scry 2. Fair enough. Yeah, we might just be flipping a massive Oddity next turn. That's an Elemental! Chandra can't kill that one. Well, with the -3. Chandra can -X that one. It's probably land attack Oddity again. And just flip the oddity if they block it with a lot of stuff. Maybe even if they don't. Okay, we'll take 5 in the sky. Ravenous Pursuit. Get one of these dorks out of the way. One, two, three, four, five, six, 7 plus a treasure. 7 plus 2 treasures. If I hit with oddity, which I almost definitely will. So I do the 7 to flip the oddity, and then I use the 2 treasures post-combat to Ravenous Pursuit something. They're at 12 here. If I flip oddity, I'd have to use Mystic and a treasure. But then I'd have 1, 2, 3, plus 8, 11, plus 3, 14, plus 3, 17 with trample. They've got more than 5 toughness, though. They could survive that attack. So may not be worth it. I think I am going with the initial line I was thinking about, which is just send oddity in. So I have enough mana to flip it and give it hexproof indestructible if that part is necessary, but that probably isn't. No blocks. I believe we flip this and then pursuit post-combat. Because I can flip oddity next turn, though, I'm pretty much guaranteed to lethal them next turn. So is it a lot safer to just let this hit them and then just see what we hit off Facebreaker, just cast some more spells, hold up safekeeping? That does feel way safer. We'll play the safe line here. Glorybringer. Post-combat Glorybringer isn't the greatest, but this is still a good flyer. Makes Pelt Collector bigger as well, and I can still Ravenous Pursuit now. We pursuit the Stormwing entity, the Prowess flyer, so we don't have to worry about that thing, I guess. Or the Clarion Spirit, so we don't have to worry about extra blockers, but extra blockers don't matter when we'll give our whole board. We'll give our whole board +1/+1 and trample. 1/1 spirit blockers don't really matter. Just make sure there's no way they find lethal here, and there's no way they kill the oddity, and then next turn we flip oddity, attack with everybody, and lethal them. Unless Settle the Wreckage is in this cube. I don't know if it is. It is one of the strongest, most iconic cards on Arena, so I wouldn't be surprised. But I have not looked over the full cube list this time around. Restoration Angel, sure. Fairly sure that we still have oddity lethal. Giving our whole board +1/+1 and trample next turn. Stone Coil Serpents. That might be enough blockers. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 to 1, 2, 3, 11, 15, 17, 18, 18 plus 5. Okay, well now we definitely have lethal. Right? Deal 7 more. I guess we're 1 damage off from lethal next turn. Potentially. I don't know, it's just math. Math is for blockers it. And I'll exert Glorybringer. Yeah, if I exert Glorybringer, this is 100%. Glorious Sunrise does the same thing as Oddity, but it doesn't add the extra 4 power that Oddity does here. Okay, so we go... We do that. We exert to kill a 4 toughness blocker. Doesn't really matter which one. I'll kill the flying 4 toughness blocker, I guess. This is probably lethal. And if it's not, we'll still get a treasure from Facebreaker to have a safekeeping up to gain 2 life. So if it's not lethal, it's still going to kill the vast majority of their board and should be pretty impossible for them to crack back for lethal. Okay, so we're trampling over for 4 on that block. Trampling over for 3 in the sky if they block with both of those. So they're taking 4. 5, 6. 7? Go to 1. I guess it is 1 damage off here if they block with all the spirits. Oh no, I didn't count the Facebreaker. The Facebreaker's getting in for 3 as well. So yeah, that's 10 damage. That is still lethal, just in a different way than I counted. Yep. Oh, Ovenwald Oddity is just a nuts card. Glorybringer putting in a lot of work there too, letting us get 4 more toughness off the board on that attack. It's really nice showing from everything in the deck there, and we're now 2-1 as we head into round 4. Alright, here we are, round 4, opponent on the play. This is a hand I should definitely mulligan. All 5, 6, and 4s. I swear to God, I counted them up. I have 1s, 2s, and 3s in this deck. The cheapest card is 4. I'm keeping it. You know what? If Arena's going to send me this message, I refuse. I disagree, Arena. I think my curve is super fine and you're just being a big, meanie, cheaty butthead. And you're going to give me these lands. That's what I think, Arena. Opponent mulls to 5. That is definitely helpful for us. That'll give us a little bit of breathing room as we try to draw our 3rd land. Now we did draw one of our 3 mana spells, so we only need 1 land to start playing stuff. See what our opponent has going on turn 2. Maybe they kept a 1-lander here? No, it probably would have just went straight to their end phase if they did. Alright, Clarion Spirit turn 2. That is not what you want to see. As we saw last game, this card is very good. It can spit out multiple spirits. Very, very efficient for only 2 mana. Oh, I hate that this land is a pathway and I have to choose right now between my 1st red or my 2nd green. Both are incredibly important because every green card in this hand requires double green at least. I feel like 1st red is more important because then no matter what land I draw, I get to play Stormseeker next turn. Mull to 5 into turn 2 Clarion Spirit, turn 3 Maul of the Skyclaves. It's a pretty good mull. Well, we drew one of our cheap cards, Tenacious Pup here. But we're probably just dying to this Spirit in the Sky if we don't hit lands very quickly. Fourth mana from our opponent. They have 2 cards in hand. Angel, what a mull to 5. Jesus Christ. I don't know if it even would have mattered if I hit lands here. But we have not drawn a single land, so we're pretty dead. Chandra could wrath the whole board. I don't know, Hunt Master, I guess. Well, if I picked green on the pathway, we would have got there. Now, we wouldn't have won, but we would have got the 3rd land, another blocker potentially, but that's an insane keep for 5-card hand. We're dead. Brutal stuff. Incredible 5-card hand from our opponent. That hand beats most hands in our deck, even if we mulligan there. We would have had to hit one of our 2 cheap removal spells or we still just die. And we would have needed that removal spell on turn 3, otherwise the Clarion Spirit would have been too big. Because our removal spells are fight spells. So, actually just against that hand, I don't think our deck wins almost ever. Because our 2 removal spells, one is Sorcery Speed, and I'm not just going to shoot a Clarion Spirit until I know that it's a threat. So once they drop the Maul, it's too late because we'd have the Sorcery Speed removal, but that would be a 4/4 and we wouldn't have 4 power with the creatures yet. And then they drop the Angel Fire Ignition, it's definitely too late once it turns into a 6/6 and then an 8/8. So we would have definitely lost with Ravenous Pursuit. Our only hope would have been the weirdest hand ever, where we have the 2 mana instant speed fight spell in hand, and we would have wanted to put down a 2 power creature and hold up the mana for that rather than playing something else. So that nuts draw from our opponent, I give our deck like a 5% chance of victory. So all things considered, we got the bad luck hand out of the way in a game where I don't think it would have mattered. I don't think our deck can compete with that draw from our opponent. This hand is very good. I'm very, very happy to keep this one. We are 2-2 now in round 5 here. Drop the Elvish Mystic first, I think. So I can start hitting my opponent with it, because I'm not exactly playing a 3-drop turn 3. And then, yeah, just slap our opponent and drop a Gilded Goose this turn. And then we get to play Glorybringer next turn because we'll have the 5 mana. So nice early Glorybringer here. Opponent plays Considered. They're on Esper here, white, blue, and black. So it could be some control stuff going on. I could also wait on the Glorybringer and play a Huntmaster first instead. If I wait 1 turn here, it's only if I draw another land though anyway. Yeah, I think we just slam down Glorybringer while they don't have the mana to counter it. If that's their general game plan. Now we just play a Pelt Collector and start making a bunch of food with our goose. Light up the stage. They're going to exile 2 cards, a triple black Ayara, and a Swamp. Very multicolored deck here. Very bold mana base as well. Forceful Cultivator is a pretty sick draw here. I'm going to go for that. Pass the turn. We do have a Gifted Aetherborn here now, a 2/3 Death Touch Lifelinker on the ground. I can blow that up with Glorybringer or just Ravenous Pursuit it. Ravenous Pursuit 4, 5, 6, 7 damage to them. Not lethal yet. But I think it's worth it to get that out of the way. Make our Pelt Collector bigger. Yeah, I think I do Pelt Collector. I could do Augur of Autumn, but I think I'm going to leave that in hand just in case they wrath us up here. And this way I get to hit for 1 more damage with Mystic this turn as well. Alright. Now if they wrath us, I've got the card draw engine of Augur of Autumn and then the big Balm of Tovalar's Huntmaster to close things once we hit the lands we need. Very glad I did not go for Augur of Autumn there, but I will go for it now. Chandra on top, 1 mana away from her, and she will absolutely close this game out. So if there's a land right after Chandra, that's going to be huge. It's going to be beautiful. Angel of Invention. Big deal, but Chandra can blow that up. Perfect. There's the land. Jugan defends the temple is going to be the next draw. I'm just going to blow up their lifelinker immediately.
If you haven't heard of me,
And exile it.
Meet my flames. Utterly is the best.
Put them down to 2. And pass the turn. Siphon Insight. They have Jugan defends the temple. We don't know what the next card is. They're going to play the Jugan defends the temple, sure. Play the land off the top. Could do 1 damage to this human monk and try to hit in. Feel like it's safer to just make the emblem. It's potential missed lethal though. Let's just go for the lethal. They need an instant speed trick here to kill us.
Bye-bye.
Or to kill the Augur Bottom. Okay. No instant speed trick. And it's going to be 3 and 2 now for the first Arena Cube draft. Alright, so here we are now in game 6. We're 3 and 2. Opponent is on the play. We are on the draw. Definitely another hand we're looking for those 1s and 2s, but Jugan defends the temple on 3, can ramp this big stuff out pretty early. And Thali is pretty deadly to this hand. Yep. Alright. Get aggroed out of it here. Mono white deck. On the play with the curve out. Especially with Thalia. If it weren't for Thalia, we're still very in this game, but Thalia is just the perfect out to this hand. We just can't do anything now. Good lord. Really unfortunate luck, this one. That's the mono white aggro curve out for you. An old Luminarch aspirant. Play a single blocker. They've got 11 power out already. Any blocker we play is just going to die unless we just play Toski to chump block. But Toski still only blocks once anyway, so it's basically just a chump still. If anything's just a chump block anyway, I might as well play the least impactful creature to chump block with. They're probably just going to blow it up no matter what anyway and just kill us this turn. But yeah, any block I'm going to make here is pretty likely to be a chump block. Like, I can play a 2-3 and block the aspirant, but then I go to 2 life and there's no way I'm winning. I'm pretty sure I have to just like chump the 5-3 here, so I might as well just play the creature that's going to... that I'm the least worried about losing, and that potentially gives me another chump blocker in 2 turns instead of just the 1 chump blocker. But yeah, they were going to Banishing Light literally anything I played there anyway, because this is just the dream curve from the mono white. We're mega dead. Unfortunate stuff today. I think this deck was really good. 3-3 is fine. 3-3 is a solid average win rate record. Never too unhappy with that. I like to personally try to go 4-3 and better in the majority of my drafts. So that part is a huge bummer. I think this deck's way better than a 3-3 on average, but with the matchups we got into, with the luck of the draw here, it's fair that we went 3-3 today. I think we just had a lower than average luck on the matchups here, pushing us into a 3-3. I think this is the lower end of what this deck was capable of. I think this could have been a like 7-2 deck. Don't think this is a 7-0, but I think the high end of what this could do is probably like a 7-2. So pretty disappointed to get a 3-3 here, but it's not that bad. Still an average run, not a terrible way to start the cube off, and at least we got to play a really fun deck. We got to just play some big green-red, beefy, super explosive plays. It's just that our losses were pretty big bummers, where there wasn't really much of a game of Magic going on. It was kind of just 2 dream curves from some mono white aggro decks. Don't remember the first loss at this point after the bad beats against those 2 white aggro decks, the Boros one and the mono white there in the end. But yeah, I think this deck was pretty good. I think there weren't any massive glaring flaws. We were obviously pretty low on removal, especially cheap removal, so our worst matchup is definitely like mono white aggro, so big bummer to pair up against that kind of white aggressive deck twice. But other than that though, like, we have plenty of 1 and 2 mana plays to actually be putting stuff on the board. Safekeeping is really nice against the aggro decks. You gain some life and make sure your creature survives the block that it's going for. And then we have tons of these huge impact cards that can single-handedly win a game, as we saw with Glorybringer Kogla, Huntmaster Chandra, Glorious Sunrise, all did pretty excellent things for us. So not unhappy with the deck that we ended up drafting, a little unhappy with its performance, but that's going to happen. That is going to happen. Sometimes you play against the aggro decks and they have the dream curve. So that is going to be 3-3. That is going to be the end of today's draft. If you'd like to see some more videos like this, I will be doing daily Arena Cube drafts for at least the next week here. The next big event is on August 18th. Wizards is going to be doing a presentation of what is coming to Magic the Gathering Dungeons and Dragons in the upcoming year. So we get to see what we get to hear what the new sets are going to be, get a little bit of the Dominar United spoilers started most likely. So I'll be doing a reaction to that on the 18th. But other than that, as I said, tons of Arena Cube throughout the next week or two here, as Arena Cube is going to be on Arena all the way until September 1st. So if you enjoyed this video and would like to see more like this, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to let the YouTube algorithm know to send you some more of these videos. And as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.